Stampers, it's Linda Schmidt with Stampin' with the Hounds. Thank you for joining me today. I know it has been a, gosh, probably a few months since I have done a video, and I apologize. I have just been, my work job has consumed my life, let's just say. And then our little Greyhound, Miss Ezera, she's been having a tough time. She's 12 going on 13 and has really bad arthritis. And so we've had a few scares with her falling and stuff. So I've just been not in the right headspace lately, let's just say. But I am back this weekend. I'm hoping to get a couple of videos, maybe 3, if all goes well, done with some of the projects that I have been kind of working on off and on. And this is one that you are seeing a lot of, you know, on Pinterest and of course videos and stuff. And there's been very different variations on how to do this pop-up cross fold. And this is one I got from my upline, I think, something like that. Anyway, Susie Wood. So these are her dimensions that I used. And then I changed it up a little bit by just adding some ribbon. And then, of course, just kind of changing up with papers and doing my own little spin on it and stuff. So this is what we're going to be making today. It's fairly easy, and you can do so many different variations of it. So I encourage you to kind of play around and check it out and stuff. So, but these are both of these that I made that we're going to be doing today. I'm featuring it is the online exclusive, and it is the Everyday Skies Designer Series paper. It's a 6x6 pack of paper that has just really pretty, I'm just trying to get it out here, you know, clouds, your skies, and then it has, you know, sometimes a little pattern on the back, like with stars or like little birds. But it's really, it's a nice pack that is just very versatile. I love this one, so pretty, that you can do a lot with. So, and it goes great with the arch dies that I use a lot with that as well. So that again is in that online exclusive store. And then we have lots of stuff coming up with Stampin' Up, some changes. So the new catalog, of course, will be coming out May 6th. So if you don't have one, send me a message. I will certainly get one to you because those will start off May 6th. And that also starting April 15th, our rewards are changing. So you want to, basically for customers, every time you place an order, $20 or more, you earn 10% in rewards. And so you can accumulate those. So for example, I did an order the other day and I got to take $40 off my order because I had some rewards. So that's kind of cool. So, and they last for a year, but you do need to make an account. So you want to make sure you go to my website, and I will put a link down below, and you want to make an account. You want to opt in, and then the program will then track your rewards. So again, that starts April 15th. So make sure you sign up for that so that you can start earning rewards. All right, so we are going to get started. Like I said, we are doing this pop-up cross, and we're using some of that sky paper, and then some other, this is actually on the Last Chance. It's that vellum, Mercury vellum that we have. And then this one I kind of did a little bit of embossing on the circle and with the spotlight dies. So the supplies that you are going to need for these will be basically your card base. So you can do, this one I did as a portrait. So it's the long way. It's a 4 1/4 by 11, scored in half. You can do it that way, or you can do your standard, you know, 8. You know, the other one where it's 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, scored at 4 1/4. So both of these are A2. So either way, if you want to do for your card base, will work for this. So I'm going to do the landscape or the long way. So this is going to be, I'm doing blueberry bushel. So again, this was 4 1/4 by 11. And so it's a half a sheet of paper, and I folded it in half at 5 1/2. And then a neutral piece of cardstock, because I always like to have my, I like to do a double layer, especially when I'm working with dark paper. So that's just your standard 4 by 5 1/4. So that's just for the card base. Then to make the pop-up piece, you are going to need a piece of cardstock that is, and this can be neutral, it could be colored, basically whatever color cardstock you want. I've just been kind of using neutral, so I'm using basic white. But it needs to be 5 by 5 1/4. And then we will score that so that you're going on the 5-inch side, you're going to score at 1 3/8, 1 7/8, 3 1/8, and 3 5/8. So you're making these score lines. And then when you go to fold it, the outside ones become your valley folds, so they come in. And then the center ones are your mountain folds, so that they make your little pop-up. Okay, and that's it. That's what, and then you just basically take another piece of cardstock that'll be the horizontal part of the cross. So pretty easy on that. So I'll let you take a quick screenshot of that so you have the pattern. All right, then your other pieces, and then we'll go over the scoring when we get to making the card. So again, for the horizontal part of the cross, that's a piece of cardstock and layering designer series paper. So the cardstock is 1 1/4 by 3 1/4, and then the designer series paper is 1 by 3, and that's going to go on that part of the cross. Okay, and then for your the pop-up part of the cross, that's another piece of designer series paper. This is going to be 1 by 5. And then for your left and right panels on the cross part of the pop-up card, these are going to be, you need 2 of them, and these are 1 1/4 by 5. And when you go to cut it, make sure, especially if it's a scenery, that you keep that continuous pattern so that it doesn't, it continues through. And these pieces are going to be butt up against that score line. And then you'll have that 1/4 inch border going around the other 3 sides. But when you're putting this on, you want to be right up against both of those score lines on the cross part when you go to assemble that. And then just because I like to cover up the the part where the papers intersect, I do a 1 3/4 inch circle. And this I just used a hole punch, or one of our punches. And then I did and this is about 2 1/4. This is from the Spotlight on Nature's die. And I did this in balmy blue. And that'll just layer, because I like to have that kind of layered look on there. And then if you want to do the ribbon, and this is actually the white ribbon that I had on my first card. That was just some retired ribbon, and I actually used it all up because we did a version of this card for my for a card class I did on Friday night, and so I have no more of that ribbon left. So I had a little bit of this vanilla satin ribbon. This is probably, what is this, like a 1/2 inch? A little over 1/2 inch wide. And then it needs to be 11 inches long to be able to drape across your the cross on there. So any type of nice wide kind of smooth looking ribbon will work for that. And that is it. So we are going to start with the scoring. All right, so again, on your 5-inch side, make sure I'm on the 5, yep, we are going to score at 1 3/8, 1 7/8, 3 1/8, and 3 5/8. Okay, so now you've got 4 score lines on there. Okay, and then we're going to do our folding. So pretty easy on the scoring. So again, I like to do, and really you can start either way. If you want to start with the mountain folds first, you can certainly do that. So I'm going to do, these are going to come in. So these are going to be the, I'm doing this wrong, here we go. This will be the valley fold. And then you'll just go opposite to do that mountain fold on the one side. And then I just really burnish it just to make sure that those creases are coming. And then you're going to do another mountain fold here. And then the valley fold. So now you've got, and I just make sure, bring this together here. And give it a nice burnish. And then there you've got your pop-up piece. All right, and then we're going to assemble our pattern papers. So again, these were for the panels, and you want to have them be right up against that score line. So it's actually touching that edge. I just want to make sure I've got my left and right. Yep. Okay, so again, like this is going to go right up against that edge. And then I just make sure that I've got a nice even border on the other three sides. And then do the same thing on this opposite side. And again, make sure this is right up against that score line and that you've got a nice 1/4 inch border going around the other three sides. All right, and then you're going to go ahead and put your other strip of Designer Series paper onto the center part of the cross. So I'm just using the back side of this paper. And again, if you want to make these pieces a little bit wider so that you don't have so much white showing through, you can certainly do that too by just increasing it by 1/8 of an inch. All right, and then for our horizontal part of the cross, again, this was that 3 1/4 by 1 1/4 inch piece of cardstock, and then this one is going to be 1 by 3, and I just chose another piece of that pattern paper, the designer or the sky paper, and I just went with a little bit different pattern just for some contrast. And then this, you're only going to put glue here so that just your center part of that cross gets attached. Just make sure you're somewhat straight. And I'm just going to extend this out a little bit just so I can make sure I'm there. You go. Give it a good press. Make sure it's adhered. Okay, so there is, now your cross is attached to the card. Okay, and then the next part we want to do is the ribbon. And with this I had a little bit of a tip, just using some glue dots. So first of all, you want to put a glue dot on the back side of the left and right pieces of the cross, just to help hold the ribbon in place while you're kind of maneuvering around. So I'm just going to put a glue dot there and one there. Okay, so then you want to take your ribbon, and I have about 1 1/4 inch, 1.5 inch kind of draped down because I'm going to trim a little bit of that off. So that's just attached onto the back side of that cross. You're then going to bring this down, and you're going to, I'm going to put my thumb right here just to hold it in place. I'm going to put another glue dot directly on the ribbon, just right below, about 1/2 inch below that cross. because I'm going to make that V, and I want this just to be held in place while I'm adhering the ribbon. So we're going to take another glue dot, put it directly on the ribbon. You're then going to bring this up to make that V, and then that's just kind of held in place like that. And then this is where sometimes you may need to just do a little bit of adjustment. I'm going to actually come down a little bit farther with my glue dot. Okay, so we're going to go down, make that V, just kind of hold it in place. Okay, so now you've got that, you come down, you made the V, and then this is just going to drape behind the other cross, and then we're just going to attach it right onto that glue dot that we put on the back. So again, I could have come down a little bit farther, but it'll be fine. All right. And then you want to just trim your ribbon ends. And then sometimes I do go back and I put a couple more glue dots on the back here just to hold this ribbon in place a little bit better so it doesn't shift and fall off. There we go. And really on this one, you don't need to put this glue dot here, but it does kind of help hold things in place while you're maneuvering it around. All right, and then we're going to stamp our saying onto the circle, and I'm just doing the Happy Easter that is actually from the online exclusive Twisted in Time. So it has that, and then I'm using one of these little embellishments, kind of looks like stained glass as well. So I'm going to do this in, I think I'll do it in Blueberry Bushel. And then I like to give it a little bit of texture, so I'm going to run it through one of our embossing folders, and this one is actually retiring. This is that distressed tile. So I'm just going to place my piece in here, and I'm going to do this off screen really quick. Now you've got that little bit of texture. And we'll put this onto the Balmy Blue circle. That was from the Spotlight on Nature die set. This is one of my go-to die sets. I use this all the time. So this is in our annual catalog, and I think this one, it did carry over, thank goodness. All right. Then all I tend to do is just put a dimensional just to kind of hold that in place. Just because you've got that bulk with the ribbon. So I'm just going to put, it's sometimes easier just to put it on the cross so you kind of know where it needs to be. And then just attach your embellishment. Actually, I do want to bring this ribbon down just a little bit. There we go. Make sure you're somewhat centered. Okay. Then, when you go to put this on the card, first thing you want to do is you're going to flip it over. I like to start from the left side, so I'm only going to put glue on this section of the cardstock. And then I align this on that left side of my edge so that I've got that 1/4 inch border on my 3 sides. And then I just kind of, before I put glue on the other side here, I just hold this in place, bend this down so that I know this is going to fit into my envelope, because you want to make sure that this cross doesn't go over the edge, because otherwise it won't fit into your envelope. So that's all good. So again, I'm only going to put glue on this section, the right section here. And then again, just kind of making sure you've got that 1/4 inch border going around. And then before I press really hard, I just give it another little flat, just make sure that it will fold flat into my envelope. And it does, so perfect. All right, and then we'll real quick just stamp our greeting. And this is, I didn't really have much for Easter saying, so this is an old, oh my gosh, this thing's probably like 20 years old, this wood block stamp. But it's the only thing I really had that was kind of springy and had an Easter theme to it, so use what you have. All right, so that was in Blueberry Bushel, and then I'm going to do with the peach pie, I'm going to do this little, kind of looks like a stained glass to me, from the Twisted in Time stamp set. And that gets glued inside your card. And then to finish it off, I'm just going to add some of these little brass elements. And these are an online exclusive item. They are just the dragonflies and birds. I use these quite a bit. So we're just going to do a few of these. We'll put one up here. We'll do another one up here. There we go. All right. So, fairly simple. So that is the Pop-Up cross card. And again, this is that A2 size that fits right into your envelope. So it's another easy, fun fold to do for your Easter card. So thanks again for joining me. Stay tuned. I will have some other tutorials coming up, and have a great and creative day. Thank you.